Hi students, this video is about incorporating your sources. So once you've found them, once you've read and understood them, once you've decided which parts of that source you would like to put in your paper, now it's time to figure out the best way to seamlessly incorporate others' ideas with your own. So let's get right into it. So there are a couple reasons why we're going to want to use other sources. Often it's a requirement in my class. Several projects require students to use outside sources. It's also a way to provide evidence for your claims, add credibility to what you are saying. It's also a way to show that you understand that you are part of a larger conversation. You're referring to the research that others have done, that have come before you, and you are incorporating that with the work and the research and the experiences that you have now. It also helps to give readers a more holistic view of a topic. It gives different perspectives and allows them to see the full picture. You want to use other sources to highlight a particular passage, phrase, or idea. If something is a really important idea, or if the author has said it in a really great way, you want to make sure that you put that in your paper because it can be very persuasive. You also may want to use sources in some contexts to try to add credibility by maybe distancing yourself from the material a little bit. So it's you saying, hey, this isn't just my opinion, other experts are in agreement with me. Or if you bring in something that you want to disagree with, you're kind of saying, other people are saying this, but I am wanting to add my 2 cents. Now, what you want to do when you incorporate a source is cue readers that you are bringing in ideas that didn't come from your own little brain. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, there are 3 ways that you can do that. You can paraphrase, summarize, or direct quote. When you paraphrase, you're putting it in your own words. Okay, so sometimes you need to do a little bit more to make sure that your readers know that this didn't come from my brain, that this is paraphrased material. You're going to cite that. Summary is a little bit different. It's still in your own words. You still need to cite it in your parenthetical citation, just like a paraphrase. But usually summaries take a really large work and then condense it down significantly. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but paraphrasing and summarizing are very similar. Still didn't come from your head. You're putting it in your own words, but you still need to cite it. So, some studies show, one of my favorite studies, Marnay Isaacson conducted a study over so many different universities at all different levels, community colleges, Ivy Leagues, and she found that an overwhelming majority of students only use direct quotes in their paper, and that these quotes come from the first page of their source. So they're not even reading the full source. Only a fraction of students used quotes from the entire article or used summary and paraphrasing. Why does this happen? Why don't students summarize or paraphrase? I don't think that it's because you're lazy, and neither does Marnay Isaacson. She believes that it's because it's harder and you have to actually understand what you've read. And most of the time, we don't really feel like we know what we're talking about, especially with research. We feel a little bit out of our depth. We've only been researching a topic for a matter of weeks, maybe months, and then we're, utilizing research done by experts who have maybe dedicated decades of their life to being experts in this field. So oftentimes we kind of feel like I'll just let the experts talk. I'll take a back seat. But for my classes, I want to know what you think. I want to know what you are adding to this conversation. So I don't just want you to only quote directly from your sources, and I definitely don't want you to only utilize quotations from the first page of your source. I want you to show me that you understand the conversation surrounding your topic. So, again, like I just said, you want your voice to be heard in your paper. I want to know what you think. If I just was going to read what other people said, I'd read their article. In a larger context, it shows your teachers or your bosses that you're fully engaged in the material, you're engaging in the academic conversation. A lot of times students are just like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Tell me how much to quote. Tell me how much to paraphrase. What's the secret formula? There's no secret formula. Generally, I say that depending on the type of paper or the type of project you're working on, no more than 10% of your paper should be direct quotes. If you're doing more than that, you're not taking the time to incorporate them fully into your research, to explain them, to introduce them. Okay, you basically can paraphrase and summarize as much as you want, but keep direct quotes to a minimum. If you're saying 10% of your paper, I would say no more than one direct quote per paragraph. And you can kind of do with that what you will. The percentage may change depending on what kind of project you're doing. You should only use a direct quote when putting it in your own words might make it more difficult or unclear. Like if you're trying to put in a statistic, it can be really tricky to try to put it in your own words. I wouldn't do that. Or if the author said it in just this really great way, and it's this, what I call the golden nugget of thought, then yeah, keep it as a direct quote. Otherwise, try to lean further into paraphrasing and summarizing so that your voice is the controlling voice in your project. So, how do we paraphrase and summarize? Read the text thoroughly, really understand the source, and represent the text in the way that you think the author would want you to, and using the right moves. But what are the right moves? Okay. This is something that I incorporate from a book called They Say, I Say. It's a fantastic text. Some teachers use it as a required text for their class. I just strongly encourage it. If you ever see it anywhere, you can grab it. I honestly think there are a couple places online where you can download an older version as a PDF. So you could read it that way, grab it from a library, grab it where you can. So basically, this book, quote, identifies the key rhetorical moves in academic writing, showing students how to frame their arguments in the larger context of what others have said and providing templates to help them make these moves. Basically, Graff and Birkenstein looked at what professional authors, professional researchers, professional writers are doing in their fields and thought to themselves, what makes their writing good? And they distilled those down to a couple different moves that these authors make. And then they put them in an easy to understand format called a template for students to be able to incorporate in their own writing. These moves can be used in all disciplines, no matter what you're writing about, and it can help you feel like you're writing like a professional author. Knowing the moves can help you jump into the academic conversation and write in a sophisticated way. And it can also help you because it's hard to know how to use other ideas that came from other people without plagiarizing. You don't want to get into situations where you are, passing off other people's ideas as your own. So this can really help, especially when we feel we're out of our depth. This is how we incorporate other people's writings and integrate them with our own ideas. So we love this book. What are the moves? You will want to look at a document that I made called Templates Are Your Friend. They are your friend. They're so good. And you can use this document to help you. Don't worry about plagiarism. It's okay to copy and paste these commonly used structures right into your paper and then fill in the blanks. Once you get used to them, you're going to love them. I think some students feel a little bit weird about it, like, oh, is this going to make my writing sound robotic? What's crazy about the templates is it doesn't make your writing sound robotic. It actually makes things flow so much more naturally and smoothly. So, move number 1, don't be what I call a hit and run quoter. Basically what that is when you drop your sources in and leave them. You need to sandwich your sources. What that means is that you introduce the source, you explain the idea, and then you say why this idea matters in the context of your argument. Okay? So, you've got those 3 things. The good news is there's templates to help you with each of those steps. All right? We can take a look at it real quick. Where is it? Templates for introducing a quotation, templates for explaining the quotation, templates for establishing why your idea matters. Right in there, okay? If you ever end a paragraph with a quotation, with a direct quotation, you're not doing the sandwich method because you've left out that bottom piece of bread. You did not say why the idea matters, okay? So if you ever see, that you're ending a paragraph with quotation marks, that should be a big flag to you that you did not incorporate the sandwich method and that you've done a hit and run with your quoting, okay? All right, move number 2 is making your own voice heard. We want you to feel like you're part of the conversation and that you're seamlessly incorporating your ideas with your source material. So to do that, there's a couple things that you can do is make some claims, agree with the authors, disagree with the authors, agree with some parts, disagree with other parts, and learn how to signal to your reader who is saying what. So if the idea doesn't come out of your head and you're paraphrasing or summarizing someone else's idea versus when you are making your own claims, that is a template that we can use. Making concessions and adding urgency and telling your reader why they should care. That sounds like a lot, but there's ways to do that. Okay? Disagreeing with the reason, agreeing with the difference, agreeing and disagreeing at the same time. Help yourself say who's saying what, making concessions, indicating who cares. It's all in there. Okay. The last thing is meta commentary, and what that means is kind of like when you break away from something and kind of like say, okay, this is why that matters. And it allows you to directly talk to the reader and make comments on the argument. The reason we do it in a research paper is to give the reader a peek into your brain. It helps them understand complex ideas, and it keeps you from jumping around to ideas in your argument because you kind of have to guide them through what you're saying. We do this all the time in everyday conversation when someone will say, hang on, wait, what do you mean? And then we rephrase it, or we give another example, or we give them some more context, and we directly speak to them. But when we are writing, sometimes we forget to do that. But you absolutely can easily incorporate that. So how do we do that? Templates for introducing meta commentary. Essentially, my point is that that's a piece of meta commentary, okay? All right, so there you have it. That's how you write thoughtful and sophisticated research papers. And the more you read and write academic text, you'll see other people doing this as well. So really quick, types of plagiarism. When you copy and paste something and you don't signal where you got it from, that is plagiarism. You need to make sure that you're citing things properly. If you're not citing things properly, that can be non-attribution. Okay, so if you're paraphrasing or summarizing and you're not including an in-text citation, that would be non-attribution. Patch writing or mosaic writing is kind of tricky because a lot of times that's how we learned to paraphrase or summarize. And patch writing is when you follow the structure or the vocabulary or the language of a source too closely. You have to change it and put it in your own words. A lot of times students don't do this on purpose, but they're relying too heavily on the source, and that's patch writing. So when I'm summarizing or when I'm paraphrasing, a lot of times I will cover up the original source material so that I'm not referring to it directly so that I can kind of put it in my own words. Sometimes I'll also try to explain it to another person in my own words or pretend that I'm explaining it to another person, like maybe I explain it to my cat or my dog. And that helps me to kind of put it in my own words without relying on the source too heavily. Obviously, if you are having a generative AI write something completely for you, that would also qualify as plagiarism. In the same way that if you paid someone to write your paper and it wasn't your own writing, that would also be plagiarism. If you plagiarism on accident, technically it doesn't really matter. You are still in violation of the ASU Academic Integrity Policy. So make sure that you are being ethical and moral in the ways that you incorporate your sources. So that is how you incorporate your sources. I wanted to, if you feel like you've got a good handle on it, and this is kind of not new information, you can stop the video if you want, but if you'd like to look at some of this in action, I have some examples from both my business writing class and my first year writing class. So let's see here. This is an example from a proposal, and you can see here that they are using sources, right? According to the Pew Research Center. There we go. That is a lovely introduction to a paraphrase. And I think that we could use a little bit more of that bottom slice of the sandwich where we talk about how and why that matters. We see this kind of again here. It says a research article published by this talks about this, but then we don't really explain how it relates to the overall proposal. So this could use a little bit more of the sandwich method, even though they are introducing their sources well. You can also see here that here's some paraphrase and they have their citation there, which is good. But overall, I think there could be a little bit more meta commentary, and I think there could be a little bit more of that sandwich method. So let's look at this one. Let's see. In a research paper by this person, it is stated, we could have a couple more dynamic verbs here. In the templates, we get better verbs for doing things a little bit more. So maybe they argue, they believe, they emphasize rather than, oh, they said this. I think we could do a little bit better. What's nice is we kind of have some meta commentary here with these benefits in mind. I believe this, so it's really showing what they think, and that's well done there. Let's see. Oh. Where's the other one? There it is. Sorry, I got confused. These spaces could essentially replace, there's some meta commentary there. So we have the introduction, we have the quote, and then we have how this relates to their proposal. That's exactly what we want to see, okay? We could have a better verb there. It is said that. We could have a more active verb. And then we've got a template here. Although this statement specifically does this, then here's their point. The suggestion of gaming can be helpful to others as well. Okay, so do you see how there's a little bit of a template usage there? Lovely. Okay, so that's how you can use it in the proposal. If you are writing more of a research-based like essay paper kind of thing, we can also do that here as well. Let's find. All right, here is the author. There is the introduction. Here's the quote. We end the paragraph with a quotation. This student is missing the quotation sandwich, okay? They need to say why all of this matters in the context of their own paper. Let's see if they can do better later on. We've got something nice here in terms of like the conversation going on. Some may argue this, and then there's kind of a, but I'm arguing this. So that's kind of nice there. As Batista said in her article, we've got a setup. Then we've got, just dropped my phone. Then we've got the quote, but then we move into immediately a different source, and then we don't really go into why that matters in the context of their paper. So this person could use a little bit more of that. But then we have a lot of kind of meta commentary in this paragraph. So it is in there about saying why it's important, bringing everything together. Then we've got this, explaining this. They also recommend, we've got some better verbs there. And then we've got the what to do. So this one's just not very consistent in the way that they utilize their sources, but hopefully that helps you see some areas that were strong and then some areas where they could incorporate their sources a little more seamlessly. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email or drop by my office hours for more help.